But we believe that the people themselves, the nations themselves, are still awake. They know that this is not only the case of the Palestinians. This is an Arab-Israeli conflict, or it's not a conflict. It's a genocide. It's an apartheid. It's ethnic cleansing.
Welcome to the Miko Peled podcast.
So, Yazan, thank you very much for joining us and to give us your time so late in the evening. You're in Jerusalem.
Yes, I'm in Jerusalem, and I'm very glad to be
Thank
here
you.
with
And
you
you
today.
work with Grassroots Jerusalem.
Yes.
And I was going to say earlier, the first time I took a tour with Grassroots Jerusalem, it was with Khalid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did it several times with him, with friends, and so on. But this notion that Jerusalem is actually much larger than what we think it is, and
Yes.
the invasion of Jewish-only neighborhoods and settlements around Jerusalem is far more serious and far more severe than we imagine. Usually think, they think Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
they think the old city, they think Neve Yaakov, they think, some of the settlements around, Beit Hanina. But really, what is going on all around the city is really incredible. You see the Jewish-only neighborhoods, brand new neighborhoods with nice roads and parks and sidewalks, and then you go through all these Palestinian neighborhoods, and it's a different world. So obviously, I want you to talk about that. But this whole idea that actually Jerusalem and the Zionist invasion into Jerusalem and the changing of Jerusalem
Uh-huh.
is much more severe. It's much bigger and much more and a lot faster, going on much faster than what people know. So, if to start, if you could please just talk about yourself, talk about the organization, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you on this amazing podcast. My name is Yazan. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. Completed my elementary and secondary school in Jerusalem. A BA degree in public administration and a master's in international cooperation, and currently doing a PhD in international political economy. I've joined the Grassroots Al-Quds since 2018 as an office manager. And now I'm leading the organization. I've just started my new position as the executive director. For those who do not know, Grassroots Al-Quds, actually Grassroots was established in 2011 out of the belief in Jerusalem's historical and current importance and the need for a platform for Palestinian networking in the city. It was established for one goal, and our goal is to support the Palestinian sumud, the steadfastness. Sumud is an Arabic word for steadfastness and resilience in Al-Quds. We research and create knowledge and support community mobilization. We build also networks between the different Palestinian communities in Jerusalem so they can overcome their fragmentation by the Israeli occupation authorities, and try to make like long-term plans and strategies for the city as a whole. As I said, we research and create knowledge that support the community mobilization. We build networks also as well, and we have our political guide, Wujud, which contains different Palestinian neighborhoods, a brief about different Palestinian neighborhoods, tackling all areas: economy, education, urban planning, transportation, and so on. Also, we give tours, as you said. The Grassroots Al-Quds tour of Jerusalem actually covers the different Israeli policies designed to displace Palestinians from Jerusalem itself. These policies actually include the revocation of legal status, the land confiscation, home demolitions, the suffocation of the Palestinian economy, the intentional underdevelopment, and more, the neglect also of the municipal services. Also, the tour might take the visitors in and out, let's say, of Palestinian neighborhoods in Jerusalem, and shows also how these policies are affecting and still affects our community. It also shows the visitors what it means to be a Palestinian living in the city. We do also different we also do different things beside the tours. By the way, regarding the tours, since the breakout of the COVID-19 pandemic, we offer also this tour virtually. uh, Actually, this is a great opportunity for those around the world who cannot visit Jerusalem to get to know the Jerusalem story. In addition to the tours, we have published, as I said, our book, Wujud, the Grassroots Guide to Jerusalem. Uh, two versions, one in 2014 and the other in 2019 in English. Actually, Wujud aims at revealing the hidden Jerusalem, the Palestinian communities that are hidden from visitors and tourists by the Israeli occupation propaganda in tourism. In a city where tourism makes like 40 to 50% of the Palestinian economy, these colonial policies not only silence the Palestinian narrative on Jerusalem, but also severs our economic ties. The economic disempowerment is one of the most effective tools of displacement used against Palestinians in Jerusalem. Actually, Miko, this is why Grassroots Al-Quds has focused its work in the recent years on what we call the emancipatory tourism, creating tools that promote tourism in this eastern part of Jerusalem and helps also the visitors be ethical and responsible tourists in the occupied city. In addition to the tours and the book, we also in the process of creating Wujud app, the mobile application, in both Arabic and English, and we will publish this Arabic version of the apps very soon, and also the Arabic version of Wujud, which we believe that it will bring the experience of Al-Quds to the millions of Arabic speakers around the world. Moreover, Grassroots Al-Quds is currently coordinating a community-led tourism project. We work with existing or developing initiatives to launch a joint campaign to promote tourism in Jerusalem villages and neighborhoods that are not only to be supported, but also not to be missed on a visit to Jerusalem for their beautiful nature and rich,
Like
very
which
rich
neighborhoods,
history.
for example, which villages and neighborhoods, for example?
Yes, Al-Izariya, Bethany, Battir, which is part of Jerusalem, the historic Jerusalem, Al-Walaje, and Beit Anan, and of course the old city of Jerusalem. Yeah, and what we also do is the local and the global mobilization. Our local and global mobilization are supported and enriched by our research department. Also, it like addressing the one question: what does it mean to research Jerusalem? Our research department strives actually to build a comprehensive research methodology for the city. We research the Jerusalem's history and current reality, and monitor the way the Israeli colonial projects are changing the city. We also believe that this knowledge must support community mobilization, as it can be an important tool of confrontation
Can I
and
interrupt you just a
resistance.
minute? You said you used the word community a lot. You talked about
Yes.
community-led tourism, community mobilization. Can you
Yeah.
expand on those two things, please?
Okay. We rely a lot on oral history. When doing our research, we rely a lot on on oral history. We believe that oral history is the best way that Palestinians can tell the real story of the city, and it's not an individual interview. It's a community, a collective work. Like when we've interviewed someone who's from an uprooted village, he leads us also to another person who is uprooted from another village, so we can have a full image of any research we want to publish. But also regarding the tours, we help the community organizations and movements improve and develop their skills in providing tours and telling the people the real story of their
So you have,
neighborhoods.
I'm sorry, so you
And
have
it's not
members of the
only
community giving a tour in their neighborhood. Is that what you mean? Or
Yes, yes, we do have partners all around Jerusalem that gives tours inside their neighborhoods, just like Battir, as I said, and Al-Walaja, a women community center in Al-Walaja. We worked with them. We trained them on how to, to give tours. We provided them also with research from our department that can help them tell the real story of the neighborhood for any visitor or for any delegation. So we rely a lot on the community, and it helps us also in achieving our mission, because as I said, it's Grassroots is a Palestinian platform for networking also. It's not a platform that gives only research. By the way, we have also interactive maps that help anyone explore Jerusalem and enjoy its beauty and get to know its past and present. We have also included tips on things to see
so
and places to
is this
visit.
on your website where
All the knowledge we create is published on our website for free, downloadable, and you can
we'll have it
access
in the
it
interview?
anywhere.
We'll have that
Which,
in the interview. Yeah.
yeah, um, it also, the website also features our maps and infographics and recorded webinars and lectures we organize or participated in, and articles we wrote in cooperation with other platforms, not only locally but also globally, because we are partners also with different solidarity movements and organizations. Yes.
So when we communicated before the interview over the earlier, I told you that I'd like to, if possible, to imagine you giving a tour, which of course will take too long, but maybe you can touch on some of the places. For example, two places that come up more or less in the news and that I've been to and I've seen and been part of protests and so on. One is Sheikh Jarrah, which has of course become very
Okay.
well known, and the plans for Sheikh Jarrah in terms of the colonizing and the destroying the neighborhood. And on the other side, Silwan, which is a very
Yeah.
big community, and of course is being destroyed, and the ethnic cleansing in broad daylight is just so obvious. And maybe you can talk about Shafat, the refugee camp. I don't think people realize there's a refugee camp in Jerusalem. So maybe we can start with these
Yes.
three, and
Yeah.
then whatever else you think is important.
Of course. I just want to state that Sheikh Jarrah now is, um, you know, people there are getting more and more eviction orders. What we hear in the news that the Supreme Court may delay the evictions or not, but it doesn't make any difference, because at the end of the day, their decision is to evict these people from their homelands. Um, I believe that we all heard about the news that happened and the clashes happened last year in Sheikh Jarrah, regardless the government and who's taking control in the government. So it's not about someone in the government who escalates the situation, but living under occupation in the daily life is also an escalation. About Silwan as well, it is the similar story. It's a forced displacement policy, actually. Silwan is a home to about 33,000 Palestinians. Silwan, by the way, is located outside the wall of the old city, and barely like 5 kilometers from Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in the occupied East Jerusalem, where also protests against the planned expulsions led to Israeli violence against Palestinians and the 11-day war on Gaza last year. according, by the way, according to Amnesty International, I believe, yeah, Ateret Kohanim, a Zionist movement, has been seeking also, with the support of the Israeli authorities, to expel some 100 Palestinian families from Batn al-Hawa in Silwan, in the area of Silwan, claiming that the land is rightful owned by a Jewish trust active in the area more than 100 years ago. They're manipulating also the history as well. And while the Israeli laws allow for property to be transferred to the Jews, it denies the same right to the Palestinians who were disposed of the property following the establishment of the Jewish state in
And just to clarify,
1948.
Ateret
The,
Kohanim is an NGO. It's very well funded. There is millions and millions of dollars in the United States. It's a violent racist organization that is dedicated to destroying
yeah,
Jerusalem and Palestinian Jerusalem, basically, and to taking over homes
yeah,
all around in the old city and all around Jerusalem. And in Silwan, they've been very, very active. And of course, Silwan has this ridiculous archaeological park called the City of David, which is happening
yeah,
right in the middle of all this of the madness that goes on in Silwan. And I'm
yes,
walking down. If people don't know, you go out of the old city and then you go down the hill, and it's a very large
yes.
community. It's like a small city, really, and the situation there is severe. The tension as you walk down the streets there is really, really, you can feel it in the air. And there's also the community center there, right? The Silwan Information Center.
Yes, yes. Miko, also most of the residents there were displaced from their houses in the old city of Jerusalem in 1967, and they moved to Silwan, and now they want to displace them again. So this displacement policies does not stop in the 1948 or 1967. It continues. It is always like this, and also the Israeli Supreme Court decided to expel them from the interest of the settler, who are supported also by Atirat Kohanim, a settlement organization, as you said, whose main job is to replace Palestinians with Jews. Simply. The funny thing that some of these settlers there claim that Silwan neighborhood was owned by Yemeni Jews, and it's
But
like
actually, what the truth
I
is
don't
that there
know.
was a small group of Yemeni Jews that came in the 19th century, and they were given a spot, and some homes were built for them, but they were given a spot as
Yeah,
shelter by the Palestinian
yes,
community out of respect for them being Jews and so on. And then in 1948, the Zionists took them out. The Zionists evicted them. Not
yeah,
nobody kicked them out. The Zionists moved them to another neighborhood in 1948.
yes,
But to claim somehow that the
yes.
whole place belongs to Jews and that entire narrative.
I don't know from where they got their information, but we have our historians, we have the reality, we have the real story of the city. So that's what we believe. Also, we've also talked about the city of David. All the evictions are happening now because of the city of David. They want to expand this, archaeological research around the Silwan, and especially Batn al-Hawa, just you know for the purpose of the Zionist project itself. It's not about the city of David. No, they want just to evict people from their homes. They want to empty the
Well,
lands, and
actually,
that's it.
I think it's important to say it's not really archaeology because there's no science there. It's politically motivated.
Mhm.
There's no, somebody said that that's where David used to be, but there's no historical proof that there was a David ever. And so this is just an excuse, like you say, to evict. And as you go down the street, they have these big, big posters showing nice white Israeli
Yes.
kids running around among the archaeological ruins. It's horrifying as you see the Palestinian homes being destroyed and closed down because of the digging. So of course it's all politically
Yeah.
motivated. Much of it is being funded by Teret Kohanim, of course, and it's a horrible process. You walk down the street and you see this process of the ethnic cleansing taking place in front of your very eyes, and the tour buses come, and it's like nothing. They don't. It's almost like they don't care. They're not even trying to hide this terrible
Yes.
process.
Uh, uh, I don't believe that Palestinians are used to this or are accepting this scene But they are there, they exist, and they want to stay at their homes. They don't want to leave, and they're fighting for their homes, their lands. It's their official place. It's their homeland, and the Israeli government is making it very hard for residents of Silwan to to just prove that they live in their own lands. For example, they ask them to show the original documents of the lands, which is very very hard to have currently. And if you want to have it, and if you were lucky enough to have the official documents, they will find another way.
Of course.
Just yeah, you have the papers, okay, but we need
Yeah,
one, two, three,
yeah,
four,
yeah, of
and
course.
anything
Now
else.
let's yeah, go ahead, please.
And yeah, and I just to finish with the Silwan, clashes are always there, always. But the news are not covering it because there are larger and bigger incidents happening in Jerusalem right now, just like Al-Aqsa Mosque, and as you said, Shafat refugee camp. For example, talking about Shafat refugee camp, the camp itself was built by the Jordanians in 1966 for the refugees from villages from the Jerusalem area, such as Deir Yassin, Sataf, Lifta, who had earlier settled in these refugee camp um, in this small area. And after the 6 Day War, the camp was annexed to the Jewish state and was included in the newly drawn municipal borders of Jerusalem. That's why this camp is the only camp who's inside the Jerusalem municipal borders. Since the wall, for example, was built, the area has suffered from a lack of essential services from the Israeli authorities, whose workers most of the time refrain from crossing the checkpoint for the for the security reasons only. Um, I believe that life there is getting more and more
How many people live in the
unbearable
camp?
for Palestinians. 130,000, more than 130,000 Palestinians live in the eastern part of the refugee camp, let's say Jafat refugee camp,
130,000
and
people
also
living in a refugee
Anata.
camp, and they don't get services from the city, even though
Yes,
officially they're part of the, like you said, the municipal boundaries of Jerusalem.
yes,
They get no services. So it's a refugee camp,
yes,
and they
and they
pay
pay
taxes. Yeah, no,
taxes.
the city taxes, right?
Yes, they say they pay the arnona, which is the property tax, and they pay all their income taxes and everything, and they should benefit from the taxes they pay. But the situation is different, actually. As I said, more than 130,000 Palestinians living in Shafat refugee camp and the town of Anata, which is also part now it's part of the Shafat refugee camp. And these statistics are from the camp's information center. There's an information
Do they
center.
have the UN refugee status? Do the people
Again,
in Shafat, do they have the UN refugee status?
yes, yes, and there is a UN UNRWA offices there. But of course, people there do not believe
Yeah.
in the UN because more than 30 or 40 years being there, seeing, witnessing everything, and doing, like, I don't know, maybe nothing. That's what they say. The residents of the refugee camp itself. And they always make jokes like they are here because they are just here. They just want to be here, and they're making money. And that's it, and we are not
But
benefiting
really, the
anything
responsibility should be on
from
the state of Israel, who occupied them, and the Jerusalem city of Jerusalem,
Mhm.
municipality of Jerusalem, to provide services because they are within the Israelis created the boundaries that included them, but now they're allowing the
Yes,
scam to just sit there with no services. I mean, it's really horrible. It's hard to believe that it's part of the city of Jerusalem because the situation is so severe. Can you also talk about Isawiya? There's been a lot going on in Isawiya as well. A lot of frustration there.
Okay. Yeah, Al-Isawiya, a lot of arrestments there lately. Yesterday, they arrested someone from Al-Isawiya. Actually, Al-Isawiya has two entrances. When there's a clashes,
So
they
Isawiya
close the entrance
is a
from.
neighborhood in what is it? I think it's just north of the north side of Jerusalem.
Yes, in the northern side, yes, of Jerusalem, and there's two entrances for the neighborhood, only two main entrances. So when there's any clashes between the Palestinian youth and the Israeli army, they close the entrances, though, so they isolate the city itself. Nobody can enter, nobody can go out, and this creates more and more escalations
And
inside the
how
neighborhood
many people
itself.
live there?
So that's why. I believe that more than 30,000 Palestinians living
And what
there
kind
in
of
Al
services do
Asawiya.
they get?
Because Al Asawiya is very near to a settlement, which is the French Hill, they have, they have the infrastructure, but there is no maintenance to this infrastructure. So if you want to do anything related to, I don't know, water, electricity, you should do it by your own. It's not the municipality will never like pay attention to any of the services needed
And
in
again,
that
just
in
to
that area.
clarify, the French Hill
So
is a very fancy Israeli settlement. They call it neighborhood. It's
yes,
very, upper middle class, and it's very nice, and it's very beautiful. And it's hard to believe that right next is Isawiya. It's day and night. It's not the same standard of living. It's not the same roads. It's not the same. Nothing is the same, even though they're so close. And they are both. They're all of them are residents and citizens of Jerusalem. So they should be getting the same
yes.
services, but it's not even close.
Let's imagine that I'm walking now from French Hill to Al Isawiya. So when I am in the French Hill now, I can see the sidewalks, the playgrounds, the national parks, the public libraries, the garbage collection and everything. And when you go down like 100 meters after the French Hill settlement colony, let's say, you will see nothing, no pavements, no infrastructure. So, however, local residents there complain about the constant, water and electricity shortages, the lack of the proper sewage system as well, and the garbage removal and collection, and say that and say the municipal officials are seen in the area only rarely, and even then, it is only to issue fines for the illegal buildings. So they see the municipal officials only if the municipal officials want to issue more and more fines to the illegal buildings, and they believe that the Israeli government left them intentionally left them, because they want to destroy this social fabric by creating more and more chaos in the city, and also in Al Isawiya, because Al Isawiya is like a headache for the Israeli army. Every time clashes happen in Jerusalem, let's say, in the old city, or in Beit Hanin or anywhere else, clashes will happen also in Al Isawiya. And because it's very near to the French Hill and the Hebrew University, so the situation there will be very different from the other parts
Yeah,
of the
and it's
city.
interesting because Netanyahu describes Israel as, of course, a miracle, economic miracle, and of course Jerusalem, the internal. They say Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, but they are completely ignoring the fact that there are Palestinians there, large numbers of Palestinians. Number one, it's their city, so it can't be Israel's eternal capital because it's the Palestinian capital. But also there is the neglect, by design, by, like you said, it's a planned neglect of the Palestinian neighborhoods. Nobody sees it, nobody mentions it, and when Netanyahu speaks, when he comes to America, nobody challenges him. When an American president says Jerusalem is the united, eternal capital and all this nonsense, nobody challenges them. What about the Palestinians? What is the status of the Palestinians? What are the rights of the Palestinians? And just the day-to-day life reality of Palestinians with no, the difference between these beautiful Israeli settlements that are built all over Jerusalem and the Palestinians who live in a refugee camp, 130,000 Palestinians within the city of Jerusalem. We're not talking about a small number, and we're not talking about a city that people don't know about. And this is never challenged, and
Yeah.
Americans never mention it. And when the American senators and congressmen and come to Jerusalem and famous people, they never see it, they never talk about it. When the American money comes to the Israeli government, this is never part of the agreement. It's never a condition that at least the Palestinians, if you're going to treat Jerusalem as an Israeli city, what about the Palestinians? This is never comes up as part of the conversation. It's completely ignored. Israelis are never challenged on
Yes.
this. And I think one of the reasons is like you said, there's this, people don't know about it. And I think that's why your work is so important, and putting these stories and putting the history out. And you talked about an oral history, and of course, oral history is extremely important. But is there also, most of the literature, let's put it this way, about Jerusalem is biblical. It has to do with King David and all this, and then nothing really happened for 2,000 years, and then the Zionists came, and now everything is flourishing. Is there
Yes.
any literature that contradicts that in English? I mean, I don't know that there's much out there.
Listen, in English, we struggle a lot on finding any literature talking about the real story of the city in English. But what we do is that we translate the Arabic literature into English, and we publish it in our website, so anyone can use our resources. Um, we use also the books, the original books itself, not only the books, the PDF books online, because it is it is a it is this is the case. This is the war of information. We want to be sure that we're transferring the right and the real kind of information to the public. So that's why we also rely on the Arabic literature and the Arabic historians, and also some Israeli historians that are just like let's say, for example, like B'Tselem. They use the Israeli historians, the resources and the publish what they published, and they, you know, they use it in their resources, and they publish it also for the public, and we also um, somehow use this resources, because they translate sometimes from Hebrew to English, or from Hebrew to Arabic, and we also make sure that we are taking, sorry, the right information. So it's not about the literature in English itself, because as you said, Miko, it's very hard to find literature in English that tells the real story. But we also rely on our historians, on people who tells on who wrote actually the real story
Yeah.
of
And
the
it's
city.
impossible to appreciate. For example, if we talk about Sheikh Jarrah, for example, it's a modern neighborhood, but it has deep roots and incredibly important Palestinian structures, gorgeous homes, the Orient House, the Hind Husseini College, the Sheikh Jarrah
Yes.
Mosque. I mean, there's some beautiful structures there that are culturally and historically Palestinian. I think, which is why they're so in a hurry to get rid of it, because it speaks to Palestinian history and heritage in this, outside of the old city, in that part of the city. And without understanding, without knowing this history and the importance of this neighborhood, people don't think twice. Okay, so they destroy it. So what? The same thing with Silwan. The same thing with other places. The Zionists are moving very fast. There's never been a status quo. The word status quo really doesn't fit here, because they have been pushing and pushing Palestinians out, and pushing the settlers in, and more of mainstream Israelis support them. So what's the answer? America still gives Israel billions. They say 3.8 billion. It's much more than that, because that's just the official number. But if you talk about Ateret Kohanim, they get who knows how much money they
Yeah.
get here when they come
Yeah.
here. And Smotrich, and he has the organization Regavim. He comes here, and I talked about this in the past. So I mean, they're talking about a lot of money, and nobody from the outside seems to be stopping this. The Muslim countries are not stopping it. They're not doing anything. The Arab countries, of course, are normalizing
They
more
are
and
busy
more.
with the Abraham Accords.
They're busy with the Abraham Accords. The Jordanian ambassador was kicked out, even though he was an ambassador. He's a Muslim man, so he should be allowed to pray. And he is ambassador of Jordan, which is, the caretaker, so to speak. So where are we going with this? I mean, the work that you do, I think, is the most important work being done on Jerusalem. Period. Nobody else is doing it, and it's incredibly important. So I really want to highlight what you do and put the website out there and all the publications. But you can't do it alone.
Yeah, yeah,
You can't do it alone because you live within. It's like prisoners in the maximum security prison. I mean, the limitations that are placed upon Palestinians are enormous. What do you foresee, or what would you like to
okay.
see in terms of talking to American public or other, internationals, to understand what Jerusalem is about, to understand what Al-Aqsa is about, to understand this is a rich Arab and mostly Muslim city for more than 1,500
Yes,
years, and this invasion. And by the way, Jews lived there very peacefully until the Zionists
yes,
came, and this invasion of the Zionists is just destroying, you know, historical heritage, cultural heritage, and a place of such, religious significance, and nobody seems to be doing anything.
yeah. So
You think we can?
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want uh, to share something that I saw an interview with the Jordanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they asked the same question. The interviewer asked the same question about Jordan. So why don't you do any action? And his answer was, we're doing a political, actions. Only 70 guards of Al-Waqf working in Al-Waqf or Al-Awqaf al-Islamiyya, the Islamic endowments, can't stand against the hundreds of settlers coming in and out. But let's be honest, we're not talking about the guards. The guards are from originally from Jerusalem, and they live in the old city of Jerusalem. And if they do anything, they will get arrested and they will get detained for and sentenced for like
Oh
years.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
but you are like you are the official body. You can do something, but I don't know why there is a huge silence. Not only this year, but also the previous years. Yeah,
Oh,
always like
yeah.
a silence about what's happening in Jerusalem, and especially Al-Aqsa Mosque, who's officially under the Jordanian responsibility. Let's say the Al-Aqsa Mosque is for all Muslims all around the world, but Jordan is, you know,
The guardian. They're the official
yeah, the
guardian. Yeah.
official guardian, let's say. About the Arab world, as I told you, they are busy making the Abraham Accords with the Israelis. But the shocking thing that what we saw during the World Cup, as I believe that you saw that the people refuse even to chat with the Israeli channels, not even interview someone from the Arab world. No, they refuse totally. Even for even not even Asians, even like Europeans, some of them are refusing to deal with the Israelis. And we believe that the people themselves can put some pressure on their governments. Why? Because there are different circumstances, like the pressure from the international community on the Jordanian government and the Arab governments. But we believe that the people themselves, the nations themselves, are still awake. They know that this is not only the case of the Palestinians. This is an Arab-Israeli conflict, or it's not a conflict. It's a genocide. It's an apartheid. It's ethnic cleansing, as he said. So yeah. And regarding the international law, I believe, Miko, that during our tour, you took our tour with us and you saw the UN headquarters, right? And right in front the UN headquarters, there's an illegal settlement, seeing it every day, every time, and they do nothing. 70 years in Jerusalem, what did they do? Nothing. They say that they are managing the conflict. They are not managing the conflict. They are doing nothing. That's why we do not have faith in the international organization in our struggle for liberation.
What would you like? Is there anything that you think would be helpful? Anything that you think would be helpful in pushing the struggle to the level of, because right now there are certain churches, certain peace groups, certain civil society groups around the world that support
Yes,
Palestine. And even in the Muslim worlds, like we hear in Indonesia, I was just in Malaysia and Pakistan, it's getting weaker, but they're
yes,
there. do you have any idea how we can push it, make it bigger? How we can push this forward? This agenda. This agenda forward? What would be the message to Americans, for example, to the American administration,
Um,
to the American politicians about this, to make them understand just how severe this is?
I believe that now it's not we can't expect who can, because America and the US, or the US is a great power, is a polar. The word is now not unipolar, is bipolar, by different polars also, or multipolar, let's say. But as long as we're still contacting with different solidarity movement around the world, that they can put pressure on their governments, we are doing good job. As long as there are many people who spread the word, who tell the real story of the city inside their circles, so the circles can tell more circles about what's happening in Jerusalem and what is the real story of Jerusalem. This also helps, just like what happened in last year in Sheikh Jarrah. All the solidarity movements all around the world just, stand and like, uh, talked about the issue itself, and showed the world what's really happening in Sheikh Jarrah. Here in Jerusalem, um, people are now more aware about the Zionist project and the Zionist movements. What they can do, they are organizing different resistance actions, just like hikes. Imagine, Miko, hikes are also a headache to the Israeli occupation as well, because the Palestinians do hikes in the uprooted or the depopulated areas, or also inside Silwan or Sheikh Jarrah, or they walk around the neighborhood itself, not just only to enjoy the nature and the environment, but they believe and they know that the Israelis are always trying to steal the land. They want to preserve the Palestinian memory. They want to be there for the whole day, just to show the settlers and the Israeli occupation that we are here. We still remember, we know that this is our place. So this is also a kind of resistance, which is actually um, uh, done after the pandemic. It helped a lot exploring Jerusalem and the Jerusalem districts.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. I know it's late, and I really appreciate it. I will tell you one
I'm
story,
enjoying
though.
you. Yeah.
One image from Jerusalem. In the old city, especially if you come in through Damascus Gate, you see the settlements there inside the old
Yes.
city. And you see Palestinian kids running, sometimes playing soccer, this and that. They run freely. When the settler kids walk, they always walk with
Yes.
bodyguards. Even if it's one little boy or one little girl, they have two armed bodyguards. And so there's something so symbolic about this. The Palestinian kids, it's their home,
I'm not
it's their
afraid.
city, it's their home. They're not afraid, and they are actually the ones who suffer the most danger, because the army there treats them terrible. But they run around, they feel free, they run and shout and play. And the Israeli kids walk around like this, and the settlers walk around with guns, and they're always
Yes.
afraid. And it's so telling about who belongs and who doesn't belong,
Yeah.
who feels like they are stealing something, so they always have to be afraid, and who feels like this is theirs, and so they don't have to be afraid. It's their city.
That's the end of part 1, the interview with Yazan Risheq. Part 2 can be found on patreon.com/Miko Peled. Yazan and Miko talk about Al-Aqsa at length, the attacks by Israel on worshippers, one of the holiest sites in Islam. Also talk about Ben-Gvir. But Yazan also points out that during Easter there have been new restrictions for Christians' right to pray at the Holy Sepulchre, and that Israel's oppression is not only limited to Muslims. Very interesting, important discussion. Please check it out at patreon.com/Miko Peled.